And welcome back to the Baseball Development Hub podcast, your number one source for all things baseball development. My name is Trevor Powers, and I am joined by co-host of the podcast, Dan Galati. Dan, how are we doing on this fine Thursday evening as I enjoy my coffee because I have a lot of work to do tonight?
Doing good, doing good. First week back from vacation is always a little bit like a cold plunge, but we're now at Thursday, so I guess I should stop complaining about it. But it's been a hectic time. Vacation was too short as always. But yeah, happy to be here. Excited to get back on here and talk about what we got coming down the pipe, and also talk about some baseball development stuff. And it's always fun to see where our conversations lead.
Yeah, of course. And for anybody who is just checking back into the podcast, obviously we didn't have our podcast last week. We had a great interview with Charlotte head coach Robert Woodard that dropped on the channel. That was because you were on vacation. Out of respect for you and your time, we decided to drop that on the channel instead. So that was a great conversation. So if you're getting caught up, make sure to go check that out. As well as it's nice to be back in my seat. I feel like I'm driving my car again out of the rental car. We're back in the normal setup with the normal backdrop. This is our first podcast since I'm back in North Carolina. So excited for that as well. But as you mentioned there, we have a ton of fun stuff planned. So just to kind of give our listeners a little bit of a look ahead of what we have going, the month of September into October and beyond, I think is going to be a really exciting time if you're a fan of what we do and some of the content. Not only is the conversation we have with Georgia head coach Wes Johnson going to come out tomorrow, we have a ton of great conversations that are going to continue to come out from our trip to Charlotte. But on the docket, we're getting up to Penn State next week. A lot of good stuff planned with them with their new athletic facility upgrades, as well as some conversations we're going to have up there. And then at the end of the month, a really exciting one, we're going to head down to the reigning national champions and check out Baton Rouge. So kind of, Dan, I mean, you're going to be the one standing there talking to these people, having these great conversations. What excites you the most about some of the stuff that we have planned, whether it's through release dates or through the trips that we have set in stone at this point in time?
It's just always exciting. Like I looking at our intro video before we get rolling here and seeing all the places and going, man, like we were at these places. This is really cool. Like standing there with Chip Hale or Matt Hobbs or Colton at TCU or, sitting down with Tom Walter. So it's always just exciting to one, get on campus, especially now that it's the fall. Getting on college campuses in the fall, the buzz in the air. We're going to two places where not only do they have great baseball programs and really exciting things happening in the fall, but we're going to be on these campuses during football season where there's always an extra gear at schools like Penn State and LSU. But yeah, just the excitement of getting around these people and getting a look behind and obviously going up to Penn State, our relationship with them, having a previous relationship with them, and the people that they have on that staff there. Obviously, Wheels, who treats us like we're royalty when we show up. And Coach Gambino is absolutely an incredible dude and a great coach. And then getting to meet the guys at LSU is going to be awesome. And just obviously how successful they've been in their history, but specifically in the last 3 years, 2 national titles. So that's going to be really exciting. And then a bunch of the other schools we have planned, like, it's at a point now where, like, I know some of our viewers probably enjoy when we go to places like LSU more, when we go to places like Georgia, which obviously for me, Georgia was bucket list, but I also get excited for the small schools too. Like, I don't know about you, but I had no idea how nice Charlotte's campus was, even though we live only 2.5 hours away. I'd never been there. Like, the campus was incredible. Um, that whole vibe was awesome. So getting to some of these smaller schools too, that might not have as much excitement for some of our viewers or as much of a household name is extremely exciting for me as well. And I hope we stay busy because, man, looking at the calendar and just seeing like, oh, trip here, trip there, like it gets me fired up and gets me, keeps me going.
Yeah, it's a pinch me moment, right? You mentioned the intro to the podcast, and that's kind of one of those times where it's the same thing for me, where it's kind of like crap, like that's us, right? Like we didn't just pull that out. That's not AI generated. That's stuff we've done, and really to pat ourselves on the back even more. In the first 2 years of doing this, right? We're rounding into 2 years of truly being in the unofficial visit around Thanksgiving of this year, and to think about what we've been able to accomplish in the first 2 years is really cool when you think back at it. And it's only going to be more exciting as we continue to go places and learn from people and continue to connect with people. You mentioned Charlotte, and I think that's a really cool kind of point to make, is the excitement that they return back to us, right? Not that everywhere we go that it's not always like that. People are really generous with their time and we're very appreciative. But when you have a full staff that comes together and brings an itinerary to the table and ideas to the table of how they want to showcase their program and showcase what they're doing on the developmental side, and what they're excited to have building at a place like Charlotte or any of these other schools, that's what excites me to kind of see where we're heading in this space. And again, for our listeners, if you're tuning into this, I'm sure you tune into all of our stuff, but if you're new to this and you haven't gone out, that's the stuff that you definitely should be bearing down on. It's easy to go check out our Matt Hobbs video and be like, wow, that was really good. Yeah, it's really good. But there's a lot of really good people that we've been able to spend time with that don't have that brand recognition logo, but that are also really good baseball coaches that are going to educate, help you develop, whether you're a player, coach, or even just a fan wanting to learn more about the sport. All of those are going to be big factors in obviously your career development as a baseball person. So make sure you hit all those, because those trips almost excite me more than anything, because you can feel that radiating energy coming back from them that we put into it, because obviously we're passionate about it, but they give it right back to us, which is always awesome.
Yeah, and sometimes it's not even all about the baseball content that we get from these guys. Like, of course, that's obviously the subject of every conversation. But if you listen to some of these people talk, um, and you can just tell, like, if you just enjoy leadership and coaching, like hearing the different ways all these guys talk about their program, and for me, I'm almost more passionate about leadership and coaching, as weird as that sounds, and probably kind of corny, but than I am about baseball. And like being able to stand there with Wes Johnson, and when that comes out, like people will be able to, like, if you can't figure out why he's successful just by listening to him talk, don't even like ignore the content that he's putting out there, which like it's going to be full of gold and like just tons of nuggets like Hobbs, but like listen to the way he presents it, listen to the energy he has behind it, and like some of the leadership stuff that comes out of it, and some of the like just the coaching stuff overall about like how he talks about guys, like you'll be like, oh, huh, yeah, that's why Wes Johnson is Wes Johnson. And people didn't get to see this, the off-camera stuff that we got to see with Coach Johnson, which like then it was like within, I think, what, 2 minutes of being in his presence, Trevor, we're like, oh, we get it. Like
Yeah.
this
Mm-hmm.
is like he just is, he's one of those people that are just like special. And like
Mm-hmm.
I would imagine if you like play for him or work on his staff, like he's just one of those guys where it's like you better be round the clock, high energy. You're not allowed to have
Mm-hmm.
a bad day in that building,
Yep.
because like he just, and it seems like he makes it hard to have a bad day in the building. And even just seeing him kind of talk to the way he was talking to his players and the way he was interacting with his players, you were like, oh man, like no wonder that he's been so successful right away. And like kind of Georgia's back on the map. And we're talking about a top 10 team again, like year in and year out since he got there. And that's how a lot of these guys are, like just talking to him and
Mm-hmm.
like hearing the leadership stuff and the coaching stuff from these guys is like almost just as good as the nuggets you might get that can help you become a better baseball player or a better baseball coach. Like it's just like, yeah, the mechanical stuff, the in the weeds stuff, like that's great. And you and I love that just as much. But like also just like listen to how they kind of talk about going about it, and listen to how much like detail they have and how much passion they have for it. And that's what makes it so fun as you go to these places. And every place we've been, these guys are so passionate about their players, their programs, their universities, their campuses. Like that's what makes it exciting for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, to hit on your West point and just in detail again, I'm in the process of editing the video, and from an educational standpoint, your first question was, let's talk about pitching philosophy, and his first answer was like, wow, this is, from my end, I was like, this is unbelievable, because he goes, well, we have 22 to 24 pitchers that are going to be on our team in the fall, and we're going to have 22 to 24 different pitching philosophies. And it's like, oh, yep, that was pretty good in the first 36 seconds that we recorded this video. And you could end it there and it would be a really good clip. But the gravitational pull of his personality was evident, right? Like you could see how his guys interact with him. You can see how he interacts with just people everybody, right? How he reacted with us. Like, he was fired up to see us, and we're what are we to
Never
him?
met us.
Right. Yeah, never met us. And you can, again, like you said, that success leaves clues, as coaches tend to say. And on the leadership side of things, I think that's a really exciting point of what we want to build, right? I think the conversations that we have off air, a lot of times it's really refreshing when a coach hits you with like a, you guys get it, right? You understand. And more times those conversations are built around culture and leadership. As I always like to say to myself as I sit down and think about what we're building, right? We want to build leadership education and life lessons through baseball content, right? These guys are some of the best leaders in their industry and in their space. They just happen to have a passion for baseball more than tech or more than real estate or any of the other industries that these people would probably be successful in as well. And as we continue to roll out our content, that's what our conversations with these coaches have. So if you have, qualms about checking out our interview with Robert Woodard because you're not really interested in American baseball, right? At that point in time in that conference, or you're not really interested in who their starting shortstop is. We've never had a conversation with, like, we'll ask about certain players and how they've developed those guys, but our conversations are so evergreen, and Dan does as good of a job as any in the industry of asking the right questions that aren't, what is going to be your starting nine on opening day? We don't care about that conversation. We would be willing to have those conversations, but what makes our product in these conversations special to see on the back end post-production is that these conversations are beneficial for people that just want to learn about life, that just want to learn from successful leaders, want to learn how to take that into their own industry, want to translate those messages to their sons, daughters, whoever it is that they're surrounding themselves with. And I think that's what makes these conversations really special, is being to have those deeper baseball conversations that it isn't just simply, what is the swing and how do you teach it? What are the mechanics and how do you teach it? It's, what does nine across the chest mean to you? What does your culture mean to you? And all those things that come up.
And it's also fun learning where they've learned from and where they've come from, which I don't always ask on camera just because some of those conversations, I don't know. I don't know how interesting they'd be. I guess I could, but a lot of times like learning about that off the camera, and then that helps me kind of build the interview out as we hit record. But yeah, before we move on, just in case he's listening, I don't want to, we're praising all these guys, and like, Sabes, you're still my guy. Number one in my heart. Don't worry about it. So, but like he's a perfect example of like everything you're talking about is like getting on campus at West Virginia and talking to Steve Sabins, and like at 38 years old, how impactful he can be as a leader and what he's built. And I think that's also a credit to Randy Mazie, who he worked under for a really long time, and how good of a job he did building that program, and Saban's, on his hip doing it now that he's taken over. So like, it's just fun to kind of see it. And yeah, it's, I find it fascinating. College sports programs are organizations, right? Like,
Yep.
they're businesses, they're an organization. Especially when you talk about, schools like Penn State and Georgia and West Virginia and stuff like that, and even Charlotte, right? Like, these are organizations. Like, they own their own companies. They have massive staffs. The players are all employees. Like, the fans are the consumer. And I think it's so fun to learn how people build those out, and the people at the top, especially, the impactful people within those organizations, because, it's a business. It's like, it's kind of like if, we went to Google and did the same stuff that we do with college baseball programs. It's just their product is something more enjoyable, I think, than Google. Right. So like, it's just fun to see how each one of them puts their unique spin on it.
100%. And you hit on him, so I gotta throw some praise his way as there. If anybody from the West Virginia program is listening to this, tuning in, obviously, if Coach Sabins, you are as well. The first thing that I sat down in the car after that day and said to Dan is, I know that dude's a good father, a good friend, a good person to work for, and it had nothing to do with his baseball acumen. And if that doesn't kind of shine the light on the program that they're building there and the type of person that we believe he is, the impression he made on us. And I think you and I know, as people who have been on the industry, that's the best compliment you can give when you interact with these people, because again, it ain't rockets, like it is rocket science, but there's a lot of really smart people in this space. But are there really
Yeah.
a lot of really good people that also have that type of success? A lot of the ones let's just put it this way, all of the ones we have interacted with are those type of people. I'm not singling out anyone, but in the space, in a competitive landscape, you don't always get that type of person that you walk away going from, I know that dude treats his family right, I know he treats his friends right, I know he treats his players right, and all of those boxes were checked leaving there. And I think it's really cool to get to know these people on a little bit more personal level, because you do get to walk away and say those things about the impression you left on them and the leadership lessons you can take them of being a better, on our end, of being better, smarter business people as we continue to map things out, being better husbands, obviously, at this point in time, and taking those lessons that we learn home and being able to take them into our everyday life. So, again, ton of cool content planned. If you're not subscribed at this point, if you're still listening and you're intrigued by what we're doing, make sure you smash that subscribe button. Throw a like on this video. Throw a like on every video that you watch. Throw a comment. Let us know where you're watching from. Let us know the things that stood out to you. We're really excited about what we're continuing to build and what we have planned through the fall time frame, and then obviously being able to carry that content into the spring. You're not going to want to miss it. That's all I'm saying. The brands that we're working with, the brands that we're communicating, the ideas that we're putting together, you're not going to want to miss it. So, Dan, that brings us to our topic of the day. Obviously, that killed about 16 minutes of our episode, and we want to keep it a little bit concise, but I think that it is a good opportunity to discuss kind of what we have in the chamber here moving forward. But let's talk a little bit about on the offensive development side. One of the buzzy words, topics that has become a thing, especially as Baseball Savant has rolled out the metric, is bat speed. And it's such an interesting conversation for me, because there is value in bat speed, right? Every coach that I've talked to uh, would agree with that. More bat speed, it's never going to be an issue to have more bat speed. It's never going to be a problem. Most people do not get worse when they add bat speed. That conversation is a very important piece. The thing that creates an issue on my end on the development side of chasing bat speed is, do we have it in a controlled manner, right? Are we still able to flush a baseball? Are we still able to backspin a baseball? Is our body still in a position to hit and keep it within the confines of a baseball field, which is the foul poles, right? 110-mile-per-hour line drive into the third base dugout is useless. This isn't cricket, right? At the end of the day, we have to keep it within the foul poles. So when you think about bat speed, and obviously the narrative that has been built up about bat speed over probably the last 12 to 24 months, as it has become a common practice and conversation point, what is your perspective on how it's used in development and what the real conversation should be around bat speed?
The best for me, the best kind of analogy I can think of, which is, it might be played out at this point because you hear it all the time, and I kind of use it as a question set up a lot of times when we're talking to hitting people, is like, if you think of every hitter in their swing as a car, and or every hitter is a car and the swing is the engine, right? Like, every car is built differently and it has different speeds it can go. And it depends on what kind of is in the engine under the hood and what parts it can go with, right? Like, you can't put a powerful engine in a car that can't handle it. So I think bat speed, if you think about it as building what fits for each individual player, right? And that goes back to what you said, Wes Johnson said on the pitching side about philosophies, is like, every hitter kind of has to have a different swing and different setup. And if you try and just implement and chase one thing for each guy, it could be great for one guy. If you're building a Porsche type engine in a car that can move like a Porsche and is built for it, that's great. And bat speed right there is going to be, part of the secret sauce that can make a hitter successful if that's what they're built for. But if you have someone who can't move that way, who doesn't have maybe the barrel awareness, which is kind of really a word that I kind of am careful about, because how do you like kind of objectify barrel awareness, I guess, is my thing, is like, how do you kind of quantify it? I don't know, but point being, like, it can be dangerous for some hitters if they're not built for it. If they can't move that way, if they don't have the necessary, other parts in that engine, if we're going to just start chasing bat speed. So for me, bat speed is great to a certain point, just like anything else. And for me on the pitching side, which I'm a little bit better at talking about, it's like the conversation we had about velocity. Like velocity is a piece of the puzzle, but at some point, like if you're only focused on that one thing, which in this case is bat speed, then the rest of the car is going to fall apart.
Yeah, 100%. And I think it goes back to what we had talked about on the pitching side the last time we had hopped on here is okay, so if we understand that we have to be able to confine what bat speed is and what our body is able to produce in bat speed, okay, well, how do we develop it the quote unquote right way, right? Because there's obviously like, hey, I could tell you I use the golf analogy all the time, right? Because that's where people that are pro bat speed, and again, I'm not anti bat speed, I'm pro bat speed to a certain extent and within the confines of what an individual is able to produce, right? The right way is people will say, well, more club head speed is the end all be all, right? That's what golfers chase. More distance, more club head speed equals more distance. And to a certain extent, that is 100% accurate. But there's a couple of factors that come into play when I take that and take it into the private sector of baseball. One, first and foremost, all of those guys are the elite of the elite, right? When you get to an elite status in your sport, more bat speed, you already have this innate ability to get club face to ball in a efficient manner and make sure it's consistent, right? So the example I always like to use is me and you as former athletes, former rotational athletes have club head speed. But what does our club head look like at contact point, right? I can hit a ball as hard as humanly possible, but if it's spun and it spins and it slices into the next fairway, my club head speed was useless. So it has to be efficient, and you still have to be able to replicate the movement to get the club face to match the ball and hit it straight with backspin, right? Which is the same thing as baseball. The second thing that's really important in the comparison of club head speed to bat speed is the golf ball doesn't move, right? Like crazy concept here. If bat speed was the most important thing, of course, on a tee, it's going to replicate. So with that moving implement coming towards us, it's really important to make sure we completely understand that. We also have to put ourselves in a position, balanced position, to get to contact point without too many moving parts consistently in our posture, make flush contact within the confines of the guardrails, that is the foul poles, right? So that's an important factor. We can't just chase bat speed and get all of our forward movement and the ball's coming at 60 miles per hour and we're geared up for 90, right? We have to be able to have adjustability, have all these things within the confines of bat speed. And that's one of the pro bat speed arguments is, well, it gives you more time to read and react. And that's correct. That's 100% correct if it's natural, right? If we train it in a natural way and if it comes naturally to the athlete to create that force and create that bat speed to be able to make their decision on a 105-mile-per-hour fastball later because they have 78 miles per hour in the tank on their end. So that brings me back to the how we develop it the right way. It's through weight training. It's through medicine balls. It's through mechanical drills. It's overload, underload, but creating it in a way that it almost comes natural through doing those drills each and every day in each and every part of your development track. And then the result happens to be bat speed in the developmental process, along with good posture in her swing, backspin to the big part, adjustability that allows you to react to firm, soft, and be able to create that bat speed in an instant and an efficient way that allows you to be a consistent hitter that you would like to be when it comes game time.
Yeah, and I think the thing too that you have to keep in mind is how long does it take you to reach top speed? So bat speed is great, but if your top bat speed comes after you have to coil all the way up, high leg kick, hands have to move, you have to get the hands going, and then like the bat speed is great. Yeah, but like you're gonna get blown away by velo. You're gonna get blown away by velo. Not only are you gonna get blown away by velo, but if it takes you a long time to get to that point to reach max bat speed, or if you're just chasing that and you don't have an efficient way to get there, you're not only going to, now you're gearing up for velo, and the second you get something off speed, you're going to have no adjustability in there because you've had to get yourself into such a position. So I think the important part of this, what you're saying, is like the efficiency of it, right? The efficiency of the movement. Like if you can, and you, to your point, if you can train it properly and you have the necessary efficient movements to then train the bat speed to chase those numbers, and you can train it properly, weight room, mechanical drills, things like that, then you can chase the bat speed a little bit, because the more efficient move you have, that's really what the idea is, right? Like you have to move efficiently, and that's what you talked about with professional golfers. Is like same thing with high level hitters, right? They're efficient movers. There isn't a lot of wasted movement, which is why they can adjust to all speed, which is why they can catch up to velocity, because there's no wasted movement. They are quick to it. Their barrel gets into the zone quickly. It's all efficient, right? It looks so easy. When you see some swings, it's just like, that's such an easy swing. Like, the the old adage is like, when you first start seeing velo when you're coming up through youth baseball and stuff, it's like a lot of times you feel like you have to swing harder to hit it. Well, no, like when you look at, if you truly watch elite hitters, like the guys who can hammer velocity, like how much wasted movement does Juan Soto have? Right. And like whenever I think about Juan Soto, I think about like the everlasting memory. Was it Verlander or Garrett Cole that he took like the 99 up and in and hit it off the foul pole in the
Verlander.
World Series? Verlander. Like how, like that was a pitch in a time back in 2019 when like all the craze and why the Astros were in the World Series every year, why they were dominating teams. Like we were backspinning fastballs at really high velocities to the top of the zone and no one could get to it. Well, here comes like a 14, maybe 34, no one knows his real age, Juan Soto in 2019, and he has no wasted movement. It's like 99 at the letters. I'm not only am I going to barrel it, but I'm going to hit it off the right field foul pole, because there's just no wasted movement. It's efficient. And like, it's like, yes, he has incredible bat speed. Like Kyle Schwarber's another guy I think about. When you watch Kyle Schwarber hit, like it is the most simple, like it looks like he's up there in a beer league softball game, the way he stands, right? And it's like, he has incredible bat speed because he's incredible twitch in his hands,
Mm-hmm.
in his rotational power. So he has zero wasted movement. It
Yeah.
it is the most laid back thing ever. And then it's like fastball in, bomb. And I think so. To
Mm-hmm.
me, it's like the efficiency of your movement is where you have to start with all of it. And like again, your margin for error, and like, does bat speed help you wait longer and make adjustments and maybe even catch up to velocity in certain circumstances? But if there's a lot of wasted movement to get to that bat speed number that helps you, then there is a point of diminishing return, just like there is in everything in athletics, where it's like there's a point of diminishing return where you cannot compete at higher levels if you only have one trait within hitting. Like if you have
Mm-hmm.
elite bat speed, that doesn't necessarily mean you can hit at higher levels, because just because you have elite bat speed doesn't mean that you have adjustability, doesn't mean you have a consistent movement, doesn't mean you have barrel awareness, doesn't mean you have a good bat path. Like none of those things. Like there
Mm-hmm.
was a young guy we saw in college a couple years ago, 2 years ago, and we were talking to his coaches, and he had elite bat speed, he had incredible strength. He was a bad hitter at the time we talked to him. BP, unbelievable, right? And that's what his coaches say. He's like, you watch this guy take BP, and that's why we asked about him, because we watched him take BP, and it was like, who is this? And then we talked to the coaching staff, and they're like, yeah, like he incredible bat speed, incredible strength, but like not a good hitter,
Mm-hmm.
not a good hitter. Now
Well,
he ended up turning it around this past season, and he ended up having a pretty good year. And it's like, so there's parts to it, and you have to be well rounded, or you're not going to be a good hitter.
yeah. Well, there's so many different directions that I want to go off that, because first, and this is more recent on that last point, we had a conversation with a college coach that said their worst hitter each and every year of the last 3 years has been their highest bat speed guy.
Yep.
And I think that's where we get into the professional baseball conversation, and kind of ties back into my point about golfers, is we don't understand the margins of how elite professional
Right.
MLB major league hitters are in comparison to every level below them, right? We watch
Yes.
college baseball, and there are really good players that have traits that don't translate because of that innate God-given ability to make consistent flush contact with a baseball, right? To have adjustability, to create that force in a simple, repeatable manner, like a Schwarber, like a Soto, to not feel effort-filled in our bat speed or conversation, but still create the force necessary to have the power along with the adjustability and the ability to make consistent contact, right? And when we talk about, so I'm going to start on the correlation versus causation conversation that I thought of as you were talking. Kind of like velocity, the more bat speed you have, the harder you hit the ball, at least in terms of major league data, right? Like, let's just put it out there that way. There is a direct correlation to bat speed and slugging percentage and harder exit velocities and more ultimately success and value as a player. But that doesn't mean every player needs more bat speed to be successful, if that makes sense, right? Because if we can't create it in a confined way that is efficient, quick, as you mentioned a couple times, that was the word I kept thinking of, that quickness is more important than bat speed, which is 100% accurate, in an efficient way to create movements that can stay consistent within the confines of a baseball field. It doesn't matter if we have more bat speed. So if we chase more bat speed and we aren't doing it within the confines of our efficient movements with a good posture to stay to the big part and be able to backspin a baseball, it is useless, right? We're going to put ourselves in more bad positions to hit than good positions to hit. To defend bat speed for a second here as well, the thing you mentioned there consistently about Soto and Schwarber is the effortless nature that it feels like they still swing with good bat speed at, right? So to defend, and I'm sure pro bat speed people would defend this as well, is what Schwarber and Soto have probably done at some point in their life is train that 100% max effort so that they can build that engine, right? And this is one thing that I've helped with a lot of young hitters. Is one of the first things I've said to them is like, hey, swing hard. And they're like, huh? Because they never thought to swing hard. I love you use this example all the time because in T-ball, they say, hey, put bat to ball, just put the ball in play, and everybody cheers for you as you're running down the line, even though it's a ground out to second or a ground out to short, and you didn't hit something far hard, right? That's what we've been rewarded for our whole life. And then at some point it switches to be like, now we only get happy when we get hits, right? Not just making contact, getting hits when we get to the next level. So a lot of young hitters come in, and when you tell them to swing hard, they naturally increase their bat speed without, and again, it gets off the rails a little bit. You got to iron it in, but that's one of the first shifts you have, because if you train at a higher level, you're going to build that engine out to be quicker, faster, and more efficient in that move. And then what we're able to do is we get into game and our 80% effort is still 76 mph bat speed, which is what Schwarber and Soto have, right? They have elite bat speed from an 80% effort. Judge is the same way. We have elite bat speed from an 80% effort. You know who also has elite bat speed, but it doesn't look as efficient and effortless? Javier Baez when he was with the Cubs, right? And he had his high highs, he was a little streaky, and then his low lows, right? Because there's so much effort-filled movements within his swing that it creates these inconsistencies. So that's kind of the conversation about those guys that's really important, is those guys are allowed to put their swing basically on cruise control and feel so effortless in their swing so that they're able to create that adjustability and make consistent contact. But because they've probably trained in the weight room, they've trained mechanically, they've done med ball stuff, they've done overload, underload, super speed sluggers, they've even probably trained at 110% their max effort so they can feel that build of the engine. They're then able to get in game and say, when I'm facing 98 with vert, I got to be at 80% effort because I'm not going to make consistent contact enough if I'm trying too hard to hit this thing 550 feet.
Yeah, and you know who I think of a lot of times from the professional levels of like kind of the cautionary tale, and I believe in bat speed as well. But again, like to me, it's like you can't have bat speed without efficient movement and all the other requirements as well. Like you have to again, bat path. Like if you hit the ball hard, the higher levels you go up, it's still extremely important. But like
Yeah.
where are you hitting the ball hard? Are you hitting line drives? Or who's a guy that you and I waited for his breakout for years? Yandy Diaz.
Mm-hmm.
He's in the top percentile of bat speed in the league. But forever, it was like he's going to break out when he just learns how to hit a line drive, but he was hitting the ball into the ground. And
Worm
so it was
burner.
like, well, right. It's like, so he had the bat speed, he hit the ball hard, he clearly had the necessary strength.
Mm-hmm.
Why wasn't he one of the top players in the league offensively? Because he hit the ball on the ground. And again, the higher you go up in levels, those are outs, right?
Yeah.
Like hitting the ball on the ground is not a positive. So it's just like, for me, again, like bat speed is important, have to have the other parts of the engine.
Well, and let's talk about the opposite end of that, which has become the fad. I think the Tampa Bay Rays, the Houston Astros are the two teams that have done this as good, if not better, than anybody in identifying these guys like Alex Bregman, like Isaac Paredes, like these guys that can pull a baseball and keep it fair, right? So then when we look at the confines of a field, never have I ever been to a base. Actually, I say that and forget I coached in the CAC. Never mind, scratch that. Never have I seen a professional baseball field where it's further to left than it is to center, right? So let's just put that out there. I have seen fields that are like that. And what these guys that have less bat speed are able to do than comparatively to a Yandy Diaz is hit the ball to their pull side or the opposite field, right? Because it's also 330 down the right field line. But more times than not, it's a lot easier to hit it to the pull side, but not hook it foul, not hit it on the ground, as you say. That's Anthony Volpe's problem, not to get into a deep dive of Anthony Volpe, but Anthony Volpe's problem is not necessarily that he pulls the ball too much, contrary to what Foul Territory will tell you or what anybody who thinks they know anything about the Yankees player development will tell you. His problem is that when he does pull the ball, it's on the ground. Alex Bregman has made a great shift to Fenway Park and the Boston Red Sox, and he's had an MVP caliber year after signing as a free agent. Why? It's 310 down the line, and all he has to do is hit it high enough and far enough to get out there. Jose Altuve, why has he been a good player in the second half of his career? Well, as his exit velocities have gone down, the Crawford boxes still look fine and pretty to him. And he just goes, I'm just going to buggy whip these balls down the line, keep them fair, which is a very important piece because that's another conversation that we could probably go an hour on is the pull fly ball narrative and the conversation around practicing that versus the actuality of executing it is pull the ball, pull it in the air, not at 97 miles per hour every time. If you can get there, great. But all you have to do is hit it low 90s consistently at a 25-degree launch angle, keep it fair when you do get it. And next thing you know, you have guys like Alex Bregman with less bat speed that are MVP caliber 30 to 40 home run guys because they play in friendly confines to their skill set. And they know I don't have to hit this ball 400 feet dead center. There are guys that can do it, right? Judge can do it. Soto can do it. Schwarber can do it. Pete Alonso can do it, right? Those guys are unicorns. They're beasts.
Mookie
When they
Betts.
get, yeah, right? All those guys. So those guys that can go big part, right? And do it consistently, that's a lot harder. But when you have these guys that can make efficient moves, hit those balls down the pool side, keep them fair, but high enough to get out, they're better players than even guys that, have better exit velocity numbers, but consistently fly out to center, right? That's been again, this is a rabbit hole that I'll try to cut off and make this as concise, the short version, the expected slugging stats. Well, if a guy hits a lot of balls to center field, his expected slugging stats, hard fly balls to center field, his expected slugging stats are going to be higher than a Jose Altuve or an Alex Bregman, right? Why? Because all expected stats are is how hard do you hit it, how high do you hit it, and how often does that fall for a hit in Major League history with all these data points we have. Well, 380 to center field is different than 380 to left field. Guys that can hit the ball to 380 to left, that's a skill. That's a developed skill as well. So we can almost outperform our expected stats. Some of these guys that hit a lot of hard balls to center field, they are going to underperform because that's a big graveyard in center field at most places.
Yeah, and again, like to your point there, even more concise, it's like that's why like there are guys who can have lesser bat speed and be great. Paul Goldschmidt, right? Like Paul Goldschmidt was never a bat speed leader, right? And isn't he the guy that you said he trained bat speed and his numbers went the opposite way?
Yeah,
Because
I
like
mean, he
for
came
Paul,
off of MVP in St. Louis or MVP caliber year. Spent all offseason, again, 33-year-old guy. He went and he got bat speed training and specifically improved in that department, and his numbers went to crap.
yeah, like because there's just some guys, again, like, are you built for that? And like, you don't have to be. Like, you can be a really good hitter, as you mentioned, guys like Bregman, who's like, again, in MVP discussions, 30, 40 to homers, and he's not a bat speed guy. Like, he that's not what his skill set is. That's not what his build is, his archetype. I don't even know how to say that word, if you will. But it's important, just like velocity is. You don't need to be in the 99th percentile or in the upper percentiles to be one of the better hitters, because there's so much more to it, and the swing is so complex. I mean, that's what the hard part is like, there are so many different ways to train as well, which we've hit on a little bit a couple episodes ago. It's like, just like, how are you training it? Are you training it the right way? Are you training the way you need to train for your specific skill set? And you know, that's my thing, is like, how, if you were to ask me, someone who's never been a hitting coach, how would you get more bat speed? I'd be like, get in the weight room, because
Yes.
the important, again, to me, the golden thing about this is like the efficiency of the move that leads to the bat speed. So like, if you're a beast in the weight room, typically you can be an efficient mover with bat speed and have repeatability because your body can handle it.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I mean, we did this together, but we built in an off-season bat speed program. I built one out. And the thing that I made sure to have is we had super speed sluggers and feedback, and we told those guys to chase numbers there. But you know what we also did in those time frames? Offset flips, light bat, heavy bat, forcing adjustability and things like that. So while at one station
Single
they're
leg med
chasing,
ball, single
yeah,
leg med
right?
ball rotations. Yeah.
Exactly. So at one station, we're chasing building that engine, but at the next, we're tracing it in an efficient way. And that brings me to probably the conclusion of this conversation as we try to wrap this up here around 45 minutes is the most important thing to me is the reason I'm quote unquote lean anti bat speed training is because if you chase the results, no different than if you just chase the results of velocity or just chase the results of exit velocity, if you just chase the results of improving your bat speed, and that is your main goal each and every time you train, you are going to put your body in inefficient positions to hit, right? Because there's ultimately the variable that from a front toss or even when we know a fastball is coming, that this thing moves at different speeds and different locations and different directions, right? And when we get into games, if we spend all off season training or all of our training at the time to chase bat speed, to chase exit velocity, to chase all these things, we're putting ourselves in an inefficient position to hit, right? And I think that brings me back to the Goldschmidt point is I don't know this for certain. I don't have video evidence. We could bear down on it if we really, really wanted to. I guarantee as he went through bat speed training and did it in an unnatural way as a 32 guy who intentionally was increasing his intent and increasing his ability to rotate, I guarantee his posture was out of whack. I guarantee his top spin percentage to the pull side was up. I guarantee his ground ball percentage was up. I guarantee his hooked home run rate was up. And these are all things that I've seen because what was he doing? He was chasing a result of bat speed instead of a result of how can I create the most force and bat speed while also being efficient at contact point and the ability to backspin a baseball. So that's my cautionary tale to anybody who wants to train or coach bat speed specifically is let's make sure we do it in the confines of still being able to create adjustability, repeatability in the swing, efficient manner to backspin baseballs and keep them fair so that when we do flush a baseball, it's not crushed into section 106 behind the third base dugout. Congratulations. All that is a strike. That's it. At the end of the day, a 110 mile per hour foul home run that went 450 feet is a strike. And the pitcher gets the ball back and he's 0-1, right? And I used to tell our hitters that all the time at Arcadia. There ain't nothing good about a hard hit foul ball because it's
Nothing.
controllable, it's teachable, we can fix that. And if we're in a good position at contact point, it won't happen. It won't
Right.
happen. And so
Right.
that's the big thing to tie this all in is train bat speed, train it in the weight room, train it in med ball, train it in movements, train the engine, but then follow that up with some offset stuff to make sure your posture is in a good position to succeed.
Yeah, and your bat path, right? Like, is your
Yep.
swing complementary of what we need? Because if we're going to have good bat speed, I'd prefer to have good bat speed and hit line drives,
100%. And
not fly
again,
balls or
keep
ground
it
balls.
fair. Keep
Right.
it fair. right? Like
Because a
that's the
great,
big
because
thing is
yes, yeah, 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 and like a great bat speed ball hit it at a 40 launch.
actually it might, but for,
It
let's say
might, but you get
60
what I'm
launch.
saying. Yeah,
Yeah.
60, whatever. But
If it's hit really, really hard, 40 gets
yeah,
out, 60
yeah,
probably not.
right.
And again, I think it's something that we're not anti new. Like I feel like we've gotten on this podcast and we are new age people that have new age conversations. But as
I
we've been
wouldn't even
around
say we're
college
new age
coaches,
though. We're
yeah,
like a blend of
balance.
like both. Yeah, like you have
Well,
to
and
like
that's
we're good process baseball people.
yes.
How about that? Which is
E-
both old and new.
Exactly. And that was going to be my point was when we've getting around these college coaches, you see so much vitriol and hatred and animosity and old school people want you to do this and new school people want you to do this. The highest of the highs of this sport, the people that coach at the highest level understand it's a blend. They don't refuse Newt Force, but they don't ignore the things that they built their career off of. Wes Johnson was a high school coach before he ended up at DBU. Do you think he had technology to develop? No, he had old school thought that he built his pitching philosophies off of. He kept an open mind throughout his career. And when the opportunity to get to an SEC program and they said, here's force plates, here's an edger, here's Kinotrax biomechanics, here's everything you could have, he's going to take that and he's going to learn. He's going to implement it, but he's also not going to forget the foundation of what creates a good baseball player, right? And we have so much animosity on social media and things like that with these arguments about whether the radar guns are different, how hitting is so bad, and all these things like that. And it's just anybody who's actually in the sport does a phenomenal job of balancing the two and communicating the two to their players and the people we've been around. That's the most impressive thing, and that's changed how we have these conversations as well, which is why we felt like we needed to have these on a podcast platform to get it out to the masses. Because most of those conversations, as we mentioned, unnamed college coaches, right? We don't make these stories up. These are things like, hey, don't put this out there. I put my name to it, but this is what we believe and why we believe it.
Yeah, and the industry's changed. Like that's the thing. Like industries change and the way we look at things and when we gain new information, the way we go about things is different. But like baseball's still baseball. And that's the part where like just ignoring people who have a billion years of experience in the game is stupid. Now, if they
Yep.
go about it in a way that like,
In an arrogant
they're
way, like a lot of
an
them do.
arrogant
Yes.
and closed-minded way, like
Yep.
they're not helping themselves. And that's what, again, to your point, like all these coaches who have been in the game for forever that we go and get to sit down and talk to, like they understand, they're open-minded, every single one of
Mm-hmm.
them. I mean,
And what I was going to say is we haven't been around as many pro orgs, but it's so funny because they say that pro orgs don't want old school baseball people, right? They're not hiring players who played at a high level. And the funny thing to me, at least from my outside perspective, is it's not because they don't believe you know what you're talking about. It's because you're closed minded and you're only going to create negative culture within the org, which is going to then blend over to the players, and you're not creating a streamlined communication. There's a lot of guys who played at a high level that get a ton of opportunities to continue to coach. Most of the managers in the big leagues are former players. Those guys are more open-minded to adjust to the new age rather than these people on Twitter that want to sit here and argue and talk about how these nerds are ruining the sport. No, at the end of the day, it's if there's nerds out there that are refusing to accept that old school mentality and teachings worked, then they're wrong. But if there's also old school people that want to refuse that these technologies and new school teachings don't work as well, you're wrong too, and you're all wrong, and none of you should be hired by MLB orgs, quite frankly, because you're a negative, to the overall well-being of the game of baseball.
yep, it's a blend. It's all a blend.
It's all a blend. It's all a blend. Well, Dan, awesome conversation. Really enjoyed that one. Got in my honey hole there on the offensive side of things. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. If you're not right now, make sure to smash it right now. If you're listening this far in, obviously you're intrigued enough to sit through 50 minutes of us bantering about bat speed and our life lessons that we've learned from these coaches. You don't want to miss what's coming. Make sure you're following on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. Obviously, as I mentioned, subscribe, like the video, throw a comment. Let us know what you think about bat speed and if you have any questions that you'd like us to hit on the podcast specifically, make sure to shoot them our way. And that'll do for this episode of the Baseball Development Hub podcast.